There is one worm in your garden right now that most folks think is helping them, and it is quietly turning your best black soil into gray gravel that will not hold water. It is not the earthworm your grandmother told you to thank. It looks almost the same, but it thrashes like a snake, it breeds without a mate, and it can wreck a garden bed in a single summer. So how do you tell the good worm from the one that is eating your garden alive? And what is the $2 thing already sitting in your kitchen that makes it crawl right up out of the ground and show itself? There's a patch of ground at the north end of my garden, right where the bean rows used to be. 3 summers ago, that soil was black and soft and full of life. You could push your hand into it up to the wrist. This morning, I knelt down in that same spot and picked up a handful, and it fell through my fingers like coffee grounds. Dry, gray, loose as gravel. Nothing will hold there now. The water runs straight through it, and the roots have nothing to grab. I did not do that. A worm did. Now, I want to be careful here, because most of you have been told your whole life that a worm in the garden is a good thing. And most of the time, that is true. The fat pink earthworm your grandmother told you to thank, the one that tunnels down deep and pulls the leaves under and leaves those little castings behind, that worm is your friend. I have nothing bad to say about her. But there is another worm. She looks almost the same to a person who is not looking close. And she is not your friend. She is the reason that Beanbed died. My name is Katie Yoder. I am Amish. I keep a garden that feeds my family and a good many others besides. 1/2 acre of vegetables, a bed of herbs, berries along the fence. We have no rototiller. We have no bag of chemical from the farm store. We do the work with our hands and with what we know, and most of what I know came down to me from my mother and hers before her. But this worm, this one, my grandmother never had to fight. She is new here. And the first summer she came through my garden, I did everything wrong because I did not know what I was looking at. I thought I had too many worms. I remember thinking it was a blessing. The ground near my mulch was just boiling with them, hundreds, right up near the top. And I said to my husband, "Look how alive this soil is." I was proud of it. By August, that bed was ruined, and I did not understand why until an old man at the produce auction set me straight. He picked one up, held it in his palm, and told me to watch how it moved. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. That worm in his hand did not move like a worm. It thrashed. It whipped side to side like a little snake, and when he closed his fingers, it flung its own tail off and left the tail wriggling in his hand while the rest of it dropped to the ground and was gone. I had never seen a worm do that. A regular earthworm is slow, floppy, slimy in your hand. This thing was dry and firm and angry, and it moved like it wanted to hurt you. He told me its name or one of its names because it goes by many. Crazy worm, snake worm, Jersey wriggler, the Alabama jumper. Some folks call it the disco worm for the way it dances when you dig it up. The books call it by the Latin, Aminthus, but you do not need the Latin. You need to know that it came here from across the ocean, that it breeds faster than anything in your garden, and that a single one of them can start a whole infestation on her own because she does not need a mate. Not one. She lays her eggs by herself, and every egg is ready to go. So here's the question I could not answer that August, the question that cost me a whole bed of beans and near about my whole crop of fall greens. How do you tell the good worm from the one that is eating your garden alive? And once you know, what is the cheap, simple thing, the thing that costs about $2 and sits in most kitchens already, that makes that bad worm crawl right up out of the dirt and show herself? Because you cannot fight what you cannot see, and she lives down where you cannot see her. Here's what took me years to understand and what almost nobody gets right the first time. So listen close, because if you do not understand this part, nothing else I tell you will make sense. A good worm and a bad worm do not live in the same place. Your good earthworm, the deep one, she burrows down, 1 foot, 2 feet, sometimes deeper. She pulls leaves and scraps down into the ground behind her, and she leaves her tunnels open so the rain and the air can get down to the roots. She is a plow and a drain and a mixer all in one. She takes what is on top and she carries it down and she stitches your soil together. That is why your grandmother loved her. The jumping worm does the opposite. She does not go down, she lives in the top 2 inches, right at the surface, right where your mulch meets your dirt, right where all the good stuff is. And she does not carry it down, she eats it, all of it. The leaf litter, the mulch, the rich, dark, crumbly layer that took years to build, she runs it through her body, and what comes out the other side is those little dry pellets, coffee grounds. It looks loose, and it looks like good tilled soil to a person who does not know better, but it is not soil anymore. It is worm castings and nothing else. It will not hold water. It will not hold a root. The first hard rain, half of it washes away. Now here is the part that should turn your stomach a little, the way it turned mine. You have been feeding her. Every spring, what does a good gardener do? She lays down mulch. She spreads compost. She works in the leaves. She adds and she adds and she adds, because that is what we were all taught. Feed the soil, build it up, put more on top. And for a normal garden, that is right. But once the jumping worm is in your beds, every wheelbarrow of mulch you lay down is a fresh plate of supper set out for the very thing that is destroying you. You are not building your soil. You are running a feed lot for the enemy. And the more you feed her, the faster she breeds, and the more eggs she leaves behind for next year. That was the hardest thing for me to swallow. My whole life, the answer to a soil problem was to add something, more compost, more manure, more mulch. And here was a problem where adding was the wrong move, where the fix was to take away, to pull back the mulch, to stop hauling in the very thing I thought was helping. Sometimes the garden does not need you to give it one more thing. Sometimes it needs you to stop. And here is the other half of it, the part that makes this different from every other pest you will ever fight. You cannot buy your way out of this one. You cannot. I want you to hear me. If you go to the farm store or you call a company, they will want to sell you a spray. There is no spray. There is no powder in a jug, no chemical, no product on any shelf in this country that is made and allowed to kill this worm in your garden. The people who study these things at the big universities will tell you the same. There is nothing legal to sell you. And anything they do sell you that is not made for this worm will kill your good worms and your good bugs right along with it and leave the jumping worm to keep right on going, because she is tougher than all of them. So think about what that means. Every other pest, there is a man who will take your money. This one, there is not. Which tells you something. It tells you the answer was never going to come out of a jug. The answer is your 2 hands, your eyes, a little knowledge, and about $2 of something you probably already own. That is the whole toolkit. And it works better than any chemical ever could, because you are not poisoning your garden to save it. You are just paying attention. The English want a product. They want to spray the problem and walk away. But there is no product. There never was. And that is not bad news. That is the best news I can give you. Because it means the fix is cheap, and it is simple, and it is yours to do, and nobody can take it away from you or make you pay a bill every month for the rest of your life. You just have to know what to do. So let me show you, in the order I do it, starting with that $2 thing I keep promising you. The first thing, the thing that costs $2, is ground mustard. Plain yellow mustard, ground up. The same jar of powder you might use to make a ham, or a pot of greens taste right. You can buy a container of it at any grocery for $1 or $2. That is the whole cost. That is the trick this whole video is named for, and I am almost embarrassed at how simple it is. Here is what you do. You take 1/3 of a cup of that ground mustard and you stir it into 1 gallon of water. Mix it good, then you find a patch of ground you are worried about, and I will tell you in a second exactly where to pour it, and you pour it slow, right over the top, letting it soak in over about a square foot of dirt. Then you wait 2 minutes, maybe 3, and they come up. The mustard water does not hurt your plants. It does not hurt your soil. It does not hurt anything down there, but it stings the worms just enough that they cannot stand it, and they come thrashing up to the surface to get away from it. Every worm in that square foot will rise up where you can see it, the good ones and the bad ones both. And now, only now, you can finally look at what you actually have living in your ground. Here's the trick most folks miss. Do not pour it out in the middle of your lawn. Pour it right along the edge of your mulch, right where the wood chips or the leaves meet the bare dirt, at the foot of a shrub, along the edge of a bed. That top 2 inches at the mulch line is exactly where the jumping worm lives, and it is the first place she shows up. Test there, and you will know in 3 minutes whether you have a problem. Now, when they come up, you have to know which is which. This is the second thing, and it is the most important thing, so I am going to slow down. Pick one up, watch it. A good worm, your regular earthworm, is slow and floppy and slimy, and she just kind of noodles around in your hand. The jumping worm goes wild. She thrashes and slaps like a snake on a hot road, and if you hold her tight, she will throw off her own tail and leave it squirming behind while she drops and runs. That alone will tell you most of the time. But here's the sure test, the one that never lies. Look at the band. Every worm has a band up near the head, a ring of a different color. On your good earthworm, that band is raised up like a little saddle. It is pink or reddish, and it does not go all the way around. There is a gap on the belly side. On the jumping worm, that band is smooth and flat. It lies flush with the body. It is a milky white or a pale gray, and it wraps all the way around with no gap. Raised pink saddle, that is your friend. Smooth white ring all the way around, that is your enemy. Learn that one thing and you will never be fooled again. I keep a little magnifying glass in my apron pocket for the young ones that have not grown their band yet, but for a grown worm, you can see it with your eye. Once you know you have them, the removing is the third thing. And it is plain hard work, no way around it. You pick them by hand. After a good rain or in the cool of the early morning is when they are up near the top and easiest to gather. You drop them as you go into an old jar or a can with a little vinegar in the bottom or plain soapy water, and that is the end of them. It is not gentle and it is not quick, but it is honest. And every one you take out is 100 eggs that will not be laid. If you keep chickens or ducks, let them into that bed. Mine treat a jumping worm like candy and do half my work for me. But the worms you can see are only half the fight, and this is the fourth thing, the one people forget, the eggs. In the fall, every one of these worms lays little cocoons, hard little cases no bigger than a peppercorn, the color of dirt so you will never spot them, and those cocoons sit in your soil all winter and hatch out next spring. The frost kills the grown worms every year, but the eggs do not care about the frost. So you can pick every worm you see and still have a full crop come back in May. For the eggs, you use the sun. It is called solarizing, and it is just what it sounds like. You take the soil you are worried about, or a batch of potting dirt, or a pile of compost you are not sure about, and you spread it out and cover it tight with a sheet of clear plastic, the kind of painter's plastic you can buy in a roll at the hardware store for a few dollars. Weigh down the edges with boards or stones so no heat escapes. Then you let the sun cook it. When the dirt under there gets above 104 degrees and stays there 3 days running, the eggs die. Everyone. A black tub with a lid, set out in full sun, will do the same for a batch of potting soil. It is the one way I know to kill what you cannot see. And the last thing, the fifth thing, is how she got into your garden in the first place. Because if you do not shut that door, she will just come back. She does not fly. She does not crawl in from the woods very fast. She rides in. She comes in on mulch and in bagged compost and in the dirt around a potted plant a friend hands you over the fence. That is the main way this worm travels the whole country, in the good, helpful things we give each other. So from now on, be careful what you bring in. Only buy mulch and compost from a seller who heat treats it, cook to 130 degrees for 3 days, which kills the eggs before they ever reach you. Clean the dirt off your boots and your tools before you move from one bed to another. And thin your mulch. Do not lay it thick. She needs that deep layer of rotting stuff to live in, so a thin mulch or a mulch of pine needles or straw instead of rich compost makes your garden a poor home for her. Take away her house, and half your battle is already won. Now, I want to step back and tell you why this matters more than one bed of beans, because it does. The soil is the one thing under everything, not just your garden, everything. Every bite of food on your table started in the dirt somewhere. And the thing that makes dirt into living soil is that top layer, that dark, spongy, crumbly blanket of broken down leaves and roots and life that took the earth 100 years to build 1 inch of. The jumping worm eats that layer, not just in gardens. She is out in the forests now, all through the eastern woods, eating the leaf litter off the forest floor. And where she passes, the little wildflowers do not come back, and the tree seedlings cannot root, and the ground washes away down the hills into the creeks. This is not a small thing. A worm the size of your finger is changing whole woods. And she is spreading fast, and she is spreading because of us, because we are generous, because a gardener's first instinct is to share, a division of hostas, a bucket of good compost, a start off a favorite tomato. And the eggs ride along in that kindness. So the hardest and most important thing I can ask of you is this: be a good neighbor about it. If you know you have these worms, do not give away plants or soil from those beds. Tell the folks you trade with. There is no shame in having them. Half the country has them now, but there is a duty not to pass them on. My grandmother used to say a gift should never carry a burden the other person cannot see. She was talking about other things, but it fits here too. That is the real lesson, and it took me a ruined beanbed and a hard word from an old man at the auction to learn it. We are trained to fix a garden by adding to it. More, more, always more. And here is one time the whole answer runs the other way. You do not add, you subtract. You take away her food, you take away her house, you take away the worms one by one with your own hands, and you stop bringing her more. The fix is not a thing you buy, it is a thing you stop doing. That is a hard idea for most people. It was hard for me, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and your garden will be the better for it for the rest of your life. So here is what I want you to do tonight, or first thing in the morning if the light is gone. It costs almost nothing and it takes 10 minutes. Go to your cupboard and find the ground mustard. Mix 1/3 cup into a gallon of water. Walk out to your garden and pour it slow along the edge of your mulch, right at the foot of a bed you care about. Wait 3 minutes. Then get down close and watch what comes up. Look at the band on each one. Raised pink saddle, leave her be, she is a friend. Smooth white ring all the way around and thrashing like a snake, now you know. Now you have seen your enemy with your own eyes, and you will never be fooled by her again. Then come back and tell me in the comments what you found. Tell me where you live and whether they have reached you yet. I read every one, and I want to know how far this worm is spread because the folks who study it are still drawing the map, and every one of you is a pair of eyes on the ground. If your mustard water brought them up, say so. If it did not, say that too, and thank the Lord because it means you still have time to keep them out. Next time, I am going to show you the thing my mother buried at the corner of every potato hill. It comes in a plain paper sack. It costs about $1. And it kept the potato bugs off her rows every single year while the gardens up and down our road were stripped down to the stems by the 4th of July. Nobody sells it as a bug killer. That is not what it is for. But my mother knew what it did, and her mother taught it to her, and I have never grown a hill of potatoes without it. Until then, keep your eyes on the ground, watch the band, and remember that the oldest fixes are usually the cheapest ones, and almost always the ones somebody forgot on purpose.